Welcome to the Stories Told podcast. This is episode 124, The Final Voyage. This is the Stories Told podcast. Two authors talking about stories in movies, TV, and of course, books.
I'm Michael Grayford. I write action-adventure stories in fantasy and sci-fi worlds, sometimes for younger readers and sometimes for adults. And I try to always inject at least a little bit of humor.
And I am author E.W. Barnes, and I write action-adventure, time travel novels, and space opera science fiction. Thousands of years, thousands of worlds. But be forewarned, beyond here, there will be spoilers. Are you ready for the adventure? Let's begin. Welcome back to the Stories Told podcast. I'm author E.W. Barnes, and with me is author Michael Grayford. And today we're diving into the story told in the movie Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. How you doing today, Mike?
I am quite spiffy today. How are you?
Glad to hear that. I'm doing well, thank you. And what's new in your writing world?
New in writing world, I am still progressing on Zara 3 at a snail's pace.
Snail's pace is better than no pace.
Yeah, no, it is moving forward, just very, very slowly. I'm as I was coming up with ideas and plot points, I realized I needed to flesh out some more backstory elements that will serve.
Ooh.
Yeah, they'll serve this book and the next book. So I'm trying to make sure things work, and make sure the story has, it feels like a real world still, and not just something I made up for one book. Yeah. How about you?
I am still on hold. Next week, I'm going to be starting the editing again. I've got some, just life stuff that needs to be dealt with. And so editing Meridian and starting to think about Umbra will begin next week. So that's what's
Excellent.
going on there.
Yeah, that's good.
And what about books, movies, and television? Have you encountered anything interesting?
I watched a show on Apple TV called The Completely Made Up Adventures of Dick Turpin, which,
Okay.
as you can tell from the title, is a silly show. But it's about this guy who his father is like a butcher, I think, if I remember right. Yeah. And he doesn't want to be a butcher. He wants to go and do his own thing. So he goes out into the world and gets caught by some bandits and ends up running them and having these ridiculous adventures. It's pretty funny. It's a silly show on Apple TV.
He was a highwayman. He was an actual person.
So, that's who he is.
He was an English highwayman whose exploits were romanticized, according to Wikipedia. So that's interesting.
Obviously where the show gets the idea from, because he's a highwayman in the show. He's a leader of this band, essentially, and kind of bumbles his way to success and fame. It's pretty funny. What about you? Anything new and cool?
I am now reading the fourth book, rereading, I should say, the fourth book in the Stormlight Archive. And moving forward. Also started to watch Foundation, which you and I are going to talk about next week. So I've been watching episodes of Foundation, and it's still holding up. Now, that being said, it's a very complicated story structure. So it's one of those series where there's a lot of threads that are going to need to be appropriately woven in and resolved before the end of the series. But right now, the threads are interesting. Still really interesting. Yeah, okay. Still well acted. Still, I'm really enjoying it.
All right, great. I'm looking forward to it.
Are you ready to talk about Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country?
Yeah.
Okay. Today we're talking about the story told in the movie Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and I will read the little summary that comes up when you type in Star Trek VI on Google. Captain James Kirk and the crew of the USS Enterprise are carrying Klingon Chancellor Gorkon to Earth to negotiate a peace treaty with the United Federation of the planet. But the ship appears to fire on the Klingon vessel, and Gorkon is killed in the subsequent confusion. Kirk and Leonard McCoy are arrested for murder, leaving Spock to figure out who is behind the attack and save the negotiations. Did you enjoy this movie?
Yeah, I did. I hadn't seen this, I think, since it was in the theaters. And the thing that struck me was it really does feel like a continuation of the story after 2, 3, and 4, because we didn't obviously watch Star Trek 5, or I should say I didn't watch Star Trek 5, and I'm sure you didn't as well, before watching this one.
I've seen it once.
Yeah, me too. I saw it once. That was fine. But having watched 2, 3, and 4 again, and then jumping to 6, I don't feel like I missed anything by 5. It feels like, okay, the story just picked up again here, which is kind of interesting. I don't even think they reference anything that happened in 5, as far as I can tell. And sort of tonally and thematically and story plot wise, it feels continuous with those other stories, which is good. I think this group of movies works pretty well for a Star Trek, movie sequence. Again, it doesn't necessarily feel like a Star Trek episode in the sense that, we're having a self-contained story with some crazy new sci-fi idea or some crazy new character or some, moral play, but it does feel more like a movie. And I think it works in that sense. It obviously starts off with a bang, quite literally, with the explosion of Praxer. Yeah. And I think it's a good setup to the story, right? We know the Klingons. We've got plenty of experience with them from the show. And we know what happened in Star Trek 3 with Kirk's son and Kirk's battle against them. So I think they do a good job of carrying that forward into this story. And I can see both sides of the debate in terms of helping the Klingons. I mean, they really have been nothing but a nasty thorn to the Federation for years and years and years. And now they're faced with this consequence of this decision of whether we help them or just let them do their own thing and see if they survive. And again, I can see both. I can see both sides of this. You want to be supportive of another species that's out there. Maybe you don't agree with them. Maybe they're frustrating to deal with, but that doesn't mean that they should be wiped out, or even if you let them get wiped out. And you can debate whether. Well, we'll talk about this one. What could be improved, but I think overall that's a good setup for the story, and I think there's some good tension throughout. There's a good mystery set up. Everybody, who fired the torpedoes? Who were these people who did this? The initial dinner they have with the Klingons had both tension and humor. I thought they played that really well. And it's interesting because the story is a mix of genres, right? It's sort of this political thriller / mystery. There's a prison break sequence and there's space combat. There's a lot going on, and I think it keeps it interesting and makes it feel not like the same kind of story that we've seen before. And I think 2, 3, and 4, looking back, did that pretty well too. They feel like their own movie, not just another of the same kind of thing. I think this series works pretty well. Another thing I thought was funny was, and this goes kind of throughout Star Trek, how everyone claims ownership for the origination of old stories that have lasted through the years, right? Where the Klingons make some comment about if you'd heard Shakespeare in the original Klingon or something like that. There's a lot of fun stuff like that. And I think there's some good moments of humor in this that don't fully take you out of the story. I think they work. Again, especially from Spock. Leonard Nimoy really plays that character well. Just in his
been dead before.
His dry delivery of things, right? And it's good we get to see Kirk grow, and we get to see both Kirk and Spock admit that they can still learn, which was really cool. And overall, it was nice to see the old crew in action one last time. This is pretty much it for them as a group. And I'm really glad they didn't end on Star Trek 5.
Yeah.
That's my take.
That's an awesome take. I also enjoy this movie, and I also think it's great when you think of it in a series arc with 2, 3, and 4, but it also does a really good job of standing by itself as a story. You could watch this movie and not have seen any of those without a problem. So, I mean, maybe the part about they killed my son and be like, oh, when did that happen? But that is such a And for me, in a way, you don't even really need that as part of the story, because in the original series, you had so much conflict with the Klingons. There's plenty of bad blood there. You don't need to have this additional personal element to make this feel legitimate. Kirk's dislike of the Klingons feel legitimate. I mean, it certainly adds to it and gives it a very personal element to it, but it's legitimate regardless. One of the things I've always loved about this movie is that opening is fantastic. We get to see so much in such a short period of time. We get to see Sulu as captain of his own ship, right? And he is running a good ship, and he is a good captain, and he's got these people who clearly like him, and he's well respected, and it's awesome to see, again, this character growth, all the characters growing in what they're doing. And then having them, all of a sudden encounter this mysterious space wave that's going to destroy the ship is just, you get thrown into the action right away. It's very exciting. What's going on? I think it's one of the best openings of any Star Trek movie.
Yeah, I would agree.
I also enjoy all the different story textures that takes on. I especially enjoyed the political intrigue. You don't usually see that in a Star Trek. Either, in the original series or in the movies, you don't usually see political intrigue because the Federation is supposed to be unified and guided by principles, and so you don't need intrigue. But now you have intrigue, and it's fascinating to see it play out within the structure of the utopian framework of the Federation. The other thing I actually really enjoy is that the original series did a fantastic job, and we've talked about this before, of taking current social issues and current historical issues and turning them into science fiction stories. And that's what this movie did too. This movie was a direct parallel with history that was occurring at the time. Explosion of Praxis as a energy generation facility was mirroring the disaster at Chernobyl, which was part of the Soviet Union's energy generation system.
It's interesting. I don't remember that. Yeah. I mean, I remember that event. I don't remember these two kind of being at the same time.
They're not exactly at the same time. They're close in time, within 5 years. But it was still, if you look at, Praxis explodes and the Klingon Empire starts to fail, Chernobyl occurred and the Soviet Union started to fail. I mean, there was a direct connection when you look at it from a historical perspective. I thought, again, they did that again, which is what they used to do in the original series. So I thought that was really brilliant, too, taking these things that were happening. When this movie was released in 1991, the Soviet Union fell apart in 1989. That's when they took the Berlin Wall down. And
everything started.
Yeah, so it had only been a couple of years. So that means this story was written as this was happening.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely, I think, intended to parallel that and to mirror that experience. And I enjoyed that because that was one of the things that the original series did so well, was you want to know what the 60s were like? Go watch some of the original series episodes because, it's science fictionized and it's a little caricatured, but it's still connected with the feeling, if that makes any sense at all. So anyway, I really enjoy that. I think it's an overall a good movie. And I think also, like you said, it's a great way to send out the sort of the last time we get to see all of these characters together at one time. And it was really beautifully done. So we like this movie. Is there anything that we might have changed as writers?
There was a few things. Most of it's fairly small. There was one thing where I forget what it was. Somebody mentioned their manners not being Emily Post.
Yeah.
And that was just way too tied to a moment in time. I didn't even remember that.
Yeah.
As a thing. And there's no way they would be discussing that far in the future. That was a weird thing. I'm always leery of that kind of putting anachronistic kind of things like that into science fiction or even fantasy. But that's, that was pretty small. And then I think there was a moment that they missed out on where they're flying into the Urupente, or whatever it was, the prison planet.
Yeah.
And they're trying to communicate with the Klingons. And they're flipping through these books, trying to figure out what to say. For me, Uhura is literally the communications officer. She's supposedly trained in many languages, and all their dealings with Klingon, she doesn't know at that point enough Klingon. I feel like that was a chance to have her shine, and instead they opted to sacrifice that for humor. I would have gone the other way. I would have made her like show her competence in that moment, and everybody be impressed. Another thing that struck me the wrong way was Spock mind melding with Lieutenant Valeris to get the names of the conspirators.
Yes.
It seemed like that would be against all kinds of ethical and legal boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah, it just that really rubbed me the wrong way. I think they could have handled that differently. And then another thing was, now that you mentioned parallels to the fall of the Soviet Union, I kind of see like how they're kind of mapping that out with the Klingon Empire. But it seemed odd that the destruction of one moon would be enough to take out the whole Klingon Empire. Like, wouldn't they be on other star systems? And it seemed like they were an empire spread throughout, more than just their home world. Like, I can see, okay, the moon, caused a problem on their home world, and that would be an issue. But you don't have other worlds that you're on. It seemed like they were this vast empire. And this made that feel really small. Like, if you have this species that's just in one solar system causing you trouble, you could just kind of ignore them. So I think they needed something more there to additionally explain what was going on. There were factions fighting, or they'd already been attacked by Romulans, something. It was just one moon exploding didn't do it for me. Those are the things that I noticed.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think that you raised some really excellent points. I agree with you 100% about the mind meld. It would have been so much, I think, and I didn't even note the Uhura point that you made, but you're absolutely right. It would have been an opportunity for her to shine. Similarly, it would have been an opportunity for Spock to shine with his logic if he had logicked Valeris into giving the names of the people rather than the mind meld. That would have been an opportunity for him to really shine with his skill set. So I think you raised a really good point there. And then how I might have fixed that as a writer is to just have him out logic her. I mean, she's full Vulcan, and he could show that his Vulcan logic skills were really good. Other thing is that, you found the mention of Shakespeare to be humorous. I always find that to be grating, because for me, why are the Klingons saying that they wrote Shakespeare? Are they just goading the humans? Or what? And if they did actually have Shakespeare, then there's a failure in world building there. Explain that. So maybe I'm being too literal.
I do feel like it's a bit of an inside Star Trek joke, because you have like Chekhov referring to things as in the original Russian, and it's obviously not the original Russian. But
right.
They've done that numerous times where it's like everyone kind of claims credit for these things. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit out of world, but
yeah, I mean, with Chekhov doing that, that's clearly a Chekhov thing, and he's clearly needling his crewmates.
Yeah,
right? He's just playing around. But to have the Klingons do that, either why would they be in on Chekhov's joke? Again, I may be taking this way too seriously.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. If they themselves had played it off as like an attempt at humor or something, they kind of played it a little seriously, right?
Yeah.
But if they had chuckled afterward, like, okay, we get the joke, right?
And then what's his name? General Chang, who's like quoting Shakespeare for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did wonder about that.
And so I think either there needed to be some clear indication that this was intended to sort of harass the Federation by claiming ownership of one of their most beloved authors, or explain how the Klingons had Shakespeare. Maybe they grabbed it, maybe they visited Earth, 500 years ago, and they grabbed a copy of it and they made it their own. I mean, it wouldn't have taken much to just a little dialogue to explain that, and then not left me going, what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was an attempt to have the Klingons seem less primitive and brutish by showing that, hey, they can appreciate Shakespeare even. See, they're not all bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a little weird like that now that you mention it.
And then there is one continuity problem that needed to be corrected with some creative writing, I think.
Oh, okay.
So at the beginning of the movie, Sulu says that he and the Excelsior have been in the Beta Quadrant cataloging gaseous anomalies. And then at the end, when they're trying to find the Klingon ship, that's cloaked but can fire when it's cloaked. Uhura said, what about all the equipment we're carrying for the gaseous anomalies? But they're on the Enterprise now. So they accidentally sort of assumed, or I don't know, made the Enterprise, forgot that it was the Excelsior that was cataloging the gaseous anomalies and not the Enterprise. Right. Or if Enterprise was doing it too, there needed to be some kind of comment about that. And
or she could have said the Excelsior has this equipment.
Yes.
And then have them launch it or something.
Yes, something like that. And
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. No, finish your thought, because I have something else that's related to that, but I want to hear what you have to say about that specific thing.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't catch that, but I did wonder when she brought it up, we have this equipment for studying gaseous anomaly. I'm like, well, that's Deus Ex Machina. Where does that come from? Because I didn't remember that Sulu had said that at the beginning on their ship. So I was like, why do they have this? They're like, that's awfully convenient. Now that you say that, they clearly goofed. They forgot to change something in the script, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other piece of it, of course, is that thing has got to have a tailpipe, she says. And I'm thinking, no, it doesn't, because propulsion in space is so different than propulsion in an atmosphere. That's, to me, that's sort of like your Emily Post thing. That was a little too much anachronistic. They weren't thinking through propulsion in space. Now, does that make the story not fun? No. When that torpedo finds the Klingon vessel, not satisfying? Absolutely not true. It's totally satisfying.
Yeah.
But it's just a little thing that, as a writer, I would want to make sure that continuity was corrected.
Yeah. True.
Let's talk about themes. Did you pull any themes from this movie?
Yeah, the theme I got was, you must forgive past transgressions in order to have a hope at peace. Nice.
That's good. And I got the sort of paradoxical theme of peace is worth fighting for.
There you go. That's a good one.
So as a writer, what do you take away from Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country?
Let's see. The thing I'm going to mention is the genre in terms of mixing genre elements. I think it's a really good way to add life into, a story that could be formulaic. And I think they did that really well here.
I agree. And it worked really well.
Yeah.
And for me, I pulled the love of the characters. The characters, for the most part, were written with a great deal of affection and pulled in appropriately, though I think there were ways that it could have been done better. I think you pointed out a really excellent way of doing that. But I took away the love of the characters and how to really maximize, especially when this is the last time you're going to see them.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us as we talked about Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. A huge thanks to our Patreon supporters and all our listeners. Your support, even through a simple like or share, means the world to us. If you enjoyed today's themes, check out E.W. Barnes's Empyrean Guard Space Opera, currently in draft on Patreon. It features interstellar missions, fractured allegiances, and characters caught between galaxy-wide conflict and loyalty to their team. The link is in the show notes if you're curious to explore more.
The Stories Told podcast is available on all major platforms. Please like, subscribe, or follow to help us reach more story lovers like you. For book, TV, or movie suggestions, drop a note on the YouTube channel, and that link is in the show notes as well. You can find Michael Grayford at michaelgrayford.com and E.W. Barnes at 1000years.com. Join us next time as we talk about the story told in the TV series Foundation, Season 3. Thanks so much, Mike. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. This was great.
And we'll see you next time on the Stories Told podcast.